So we're reading from Beha'alotcha, and it's in the Torah. It's an interesting reading. There's a lot about the Levites, a lot of the temple, and I feel like I speak so much about the temple. It's really been a lot of fun for me to look into the words of the prophets more and see what they have to offer us. And I have to ask you a question, as I like to do when I begin my drosh. Have you ever heard of such thing as an imposter syndrome? Okay, some of you have, some of you have not. Now, I actually do not know if this is a real medical condition or not. I wonder. It could just be a colloquial phrase that we use to describe something that people feel, not an actual medical syndrome, not like you would find in a medical textbooks. For those of you who may have not heard about the imposter syndrome, this is how people feel about themselves. They feel that they don't belong. They feel that they don't belong in a position in which they actually find themselves. So here they are, and yet they feel like they're an imposter. Here's a common scenario. Someone gets promoted in their new job. Suddenly, they're the boss. They don't feel like the boss. And suddenly, everyone looks to them, looks for them to have all the answers, all the fixes, all the solutions. Somehow they are now the world authority on everything. And they have no idea how to solve any of the issues that are being brought to them. So people feel that they're faking being a boss, faking being competent. They fear that they don't actually have what it takes to fill the role that they find themselves in. And sooner or later, everyone else will see that they don't belong, that they really are an imposter. And that's what I say. That's an imposter syndrome. That's my best description of it. And so a lot of people feel that way. As I read the words of the prophets this week and I meditated upon them, I had a sense that in the book of Zechariah, Zerubbabel might have felt like an imposter. I'm going to give you just a little bit of background if you're not familiar. Zerubbabel, his name, Zerubbabel, literally means something like born in Babylon. So right away, his name is already as an outsider name. Now, he's a descendant of David, but he couldn't be king. Because Judah, at that point in history, was a vassal state of Persia. So he was only a governor. So here is a descendant of David in his own country, in the city of Jerusalem. And he can only be a governor because the Persians are still in charge, really. Yes, people were allowed to return home. They're allowed to rebuild their temple. Yet that's where he is. So I'm sure he might have felt like he doesn't really have what it takes to achieve the tasks that he's been given. Yet I think God saw him in a different light. At the very, very end of our weekly reading in the book of Zechariah, this week, there's this curious passage. It's a beautiful, beautiful dream that Zerubbabel saw. It is a dream from God, but the dreams, they're tricky. They're tricky to interpret because so much in our dreams is personal to us. And so imagine you're encountering a dream and it's being told to you, you don't really know how to take it because so much of it is tied to that person who is dreaming it, and the other part is obviously from God. And so interpreting someone's dreams sometimes is almost impossible. It really takes a special gift from God, like the kind of gift that Joseph had in Torah. It was a supernatural gift to interpret somebody else's dream, to be able to see through that. So Zerubbabel's dream, he saw a menorah, a golden lampstand, and he saw 2 olive trees besides it, feeding the bowls of the menorah. And I assume that what the trees were feeding was olive oil. Obviously, it's a symbolic dream, and Zerubbabel had no idea what it meant. And because he had the opportunity, he asked an angel for an explanation in this story. And the answer is most interesting, that what he received are these words. The angel said, these are words from God. Lo v'chail, lo v'koach, ki im beruchi amar Adonai tzvaot. Not by strength, not by ability, but by my spirit, says Adonai of armies. Now, I don't know what Zerubbabel might have thought when he heard those words. We're not told that in the text. And I'm sure this was a welcome message because they just returned from Babylon. What he looked at, the task of restoring the temple, probably was not something that he thought he could actually do. And so these words were clearly words of encouragement, words that were meant to build him up, to strengthen him. The question, of course, that I had as I was reading these words is, how do you get that interpretation from the menorah and the 2 olive trees? Because that's what the angel said it meant. So how do you get there? Honestly, I thought about it. I don't know. Dreams are hard to interpret. I told you this. And that's what we have. What we have is one metaphor on top of another. The interpretation of a dream is still not 100% plain. But we get the big picture. So like Zerubbabel, I'm just going to take the angel's words and simply understand them. So if you feel, by the way, like Zerubbabel, you can probably benefit from this message that he was given as well. So I'm going to give you a couple of points with something to take away for us today from this story from Zechariah chapter 4. My first point is this. Allow God's Spirit to manifest in your life. Allow God's Spirit to manifest in your life. We may not always feel Hashem's presence. We may not always feel Hashem's Spirit. But the truth is that His Spirit is never really far from us. If you have ever felt far away from God, you have to know that that's just a feeling. The reality can be completely different from our feelings. Our feelings are very real to us, but they may actually not be reflecting the truth. Those who seek God, those who yearn for His presence, those who seek and ask, they're never really far. I want you to remember that. Our ability to perceive God and to understand His will, that's a whole different matter. Sometimes we hear things from Hashem and we don't truly understand what they mean. So we can be close to Hashem, but we're not able to hear what He has to say because our soul, it's not aligned with Him, because we're in a different place, because maybe we are feeling that we don't belong. We feel like we're that imposter, that we shouldn't be here doing this. Sometimes we human beings, we can be like a clogged pipe, inches away from Hashem, but unable to receive what He has for us. Now it's hard to stop relying on our own strength and live by faith. Living by faith is difficult. It's easier to do things in our own strength. It's easier to lean on our own natural talents and abilities. We have been doing this. We're used to that. And that is why the message to Zerubbabel is not by strength, not by ability, but by my Spirit, Hashem says. Let's learn from this and allow God's Spirit to work in your life. Be open to God's help. In the moments when you feel especially under-equipped, especially under pressure, especially you don't feel adequate, maybe you feel like I shouldn't be here, I'm not the one to do this, I'm an imposter, somebody else should step in. I am talking about God's Spirit sometimes carrying you on a college exam, okay? This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about sometimes God's Spirit helping you crunching the numbers on a financial report that in the ways that you've never done before. That happens. Don't count on it, but it does happen. God's Spirit changes us and empowers us on the inside. And on the outside, you become extraordinary. You become competent. But you have to allow for that to happen. You have to receive this in faith. So that's my first point. Allow God's Spirit to manifest in your life. It's a lot easier said than done. The second one is related. Trust God's Spirit to work through you. Faith is a big component to all of this, to our walk in life. Doing something we may not know or understand or not be sure about it, and trusting God as He's helping us to do it, as He's leading us, that's faith. Now, if you allow God's Spirit to work through you, you will not be able to predict the next scene in the movie of your life. And what I mean by this is you may end up places that are most unexpected. Where I am today, the things that I do, the people that I surround myself with, I would have never gotten there on my own strength. If it was just my own design, my own ideas, my own just plans, and that's how I wanted it, I don't think I would have gotten to where I am today. And I realize that some of you listening to me will probably say the same thing about yourselves. You might say, I wouldn't be where I am without God's Spirit leading me. So, might, power, strength, ability, talent, they're all wonderful things. But God's Spirit changes absolutely everything. It transforms what we expect into something we do not expect. It makes ordinary things and ordinary people extraordinary. We are all like Zerubbabel, lacking the resources to rebuild the temple, lacking the skill to lead, and a myriad of other things that we can say that we come short of. But God's Spirit was with him and on him, and it can be upon all of us. You just have to live with Hashem each day and learn how to trust His Spirit to lead you. There's a secret. Maybe you don't know this. The Spirit is a gift that Messiah sends to His disciples. Do you remember Yeshua's teaching about the Helper? He left. He sent the Helper. Receive it. Allow God's Spirit to manifest in you. Trust God's Spirit to work through you. It is the gift of our Messiah. Shabbat Shalom.